continuation of the austerity under tight time limits. But this blackmail has officially failed, and that's what Varoufakis is saying right now. I'm watching him making his press announcements right now.
Yes, I that was what I thought too. That it's a kind of a finessing of the problem, right? It doesn't really decide anything permanently, but it is a concession extracted from Schäuble. And what you say, of course, about Merkel is the front one for a banking cartel, right? In previous years, the big thing on Merkel was that she's a creature of Josef Ackermann, who is the head of Deutsche Bank, this very large German institution, and they're the ones who are pushing this stuff and benefit from it. The only thing I might also say is that the euro, of course, also is beneficial for German companies that make things, right? Be it Siemens or Volkswagen or whatever it is. In other words, there's an element of industrial capitalism there too. But in terms of what comes onto Merkel's wheelhouse, it's the Deutsche Bank. Now, I understand we already have ultra-lefts who are complaining that Varoufakis is not militant enough. And I would simply say, the old saying is, reculer pour mieux sauter. You take one step back and then you're ready to jump forward. And that's what I see with this. This is going to give us 4 months of organizing, and maybe the situation will change and maybe something positive will emerge on the horizon.
And no more austerity. They have agreed to keep things under a balanced budget, but not the 4.5% surpluses that was promised by the previous government, but a balanced budget. For now, we'll keep it balanced, but the reforms that will be agreed upon will be announced on Monday. And the thing is, we have an agreement before the Greek government announces the reforms. So we're talking about the reforms that the Greek government wants, that the Greek electorate wants, not the reforms, not the neoliberal reforms we're used to. So they're going to make the case that the Troika is alive and we're going to inspect policy implementation in Greece, but actually these institutions, the IMF and the European Commission, will inspect if the Syriza program is going to be implemented correctly in Greece. Not.
Let me just add, when reform, this is the big thing, right? Normally, when a banker says reform, he means stripping you of your rights and ripping you off. The Syriza idea of reform is something like a massive offensive against oligarchs for non-payment of taxes, right? Tax evasion, and that includes flight capital, because the way you do tax evasion is you send it to some offshore paradise for tax evaders, precisely.
Yes, and the most important, I think, is rolling back all the changes in labor law, labor legislation. In other words, workers' rights. Will give all the old work, we will reinstitute all the old legal arrangements for workers. And that's real reform. It's not a counter-reform as we used to the last 4 years.
And as I understand it, that includes no hire and fire society, right? Not the American model where you have absolutely no rights and you can be fired for no reason from 1 minute to the next. Things like national contracts, legal status for the unions, and other benefits. And there was the whole array of anti-worker, anti-union measures that have been brought in would seemingly be now off the table.
Yes, and rolled back effectively.
All right. Well, you pointed us towards the question of a new president, a new head of state in this somewhat symbolic but nevertheless important position. Is there anything new on that front?
It is an important position. We have a new president. He has been voted. He's Prokopis Pavlopoulos. He was a minister of Interior Affairs for all of Karamanlis government. So the flirting with the Karamanlis
Faction,
clique,
sure.
yes, is as I have told before. As I have said before, we have this flirting between these two sides, and he's actually the most anti IMF conservative politician that we have seen, and he has done certain very important things. I can't go into this right now, but he's a good choice because it brings stability. That's my view. And as I said, he's flirting with the Karamanlis clique to maybe break up the Conservative Party, which in polls is disintegrating anyway.
Right. The latest we have here is that 80% of the Greeks support the Syriza government, and you did indeed point us to this idea of Karamanlis. Anything else that we need to cover this week?
We'll know more next week.
Okay, we'll be back next week. Please mark your engagement calendar. Michael Chiotinis in Athens, who's got quite a following here in the U.S. Welcome back. It's the second hour of World Crisis Radio, our edition for recorded at least on Friday, the 20th of February. Now, we want to devote ample time to the effort to free Reverend Edward Pinkney of Benton Harbor, Michigan. One news item now is the hearing that had previously been scheduled for next week has been postponed to the end of next week. February 27th will be the date. February 27th at 1 p.m. at the Berrien County Courthouse in St. Joseph, Michigan. Now, that was originally scheduled for this coming week on the 24th, but we're told the excuse was logistically impossible to get Reverend Pinkney there. We think it's that they're trying to disrupt the plans of people who were going to come and protest, but I can assure them that that contingent and more will be coming. And one of the people who's been leading this effort is Larry Pinkney. He's a cousin of Reverend Edward Pinkney. Larry Pinkney is a veteran member of the Black Panther Party and served as the Minister of the Interior of the Republic of New Africa. He is someone, I believe, the first and possibly the only American who argued his own case at the United Nations under the framework of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Mr. Pinkney is someone who's written an autobiography, Saying No to Power, autobiography of a 20th century activist and thinker. I guess that's a biography by William Mandel. And he is a college instructor in political science. And right now he's leading the Central Committee, the Defense Committee, the Legal Defense Committee for Reverend Pinkney. So we wanted to have him on. He's also the chair of the media department of that. And in that capacity, he's been on Russia Today lately. He's been on Alex Jones and any number of other of these broadcasts. So, Larry, welcome.
Well, thank you very, very much. It's a special honor and pleasure, Webster, for you to have me on the program. I want to just clarify something very quickly. I'm very honored to actually be the family spokesperson on behalf of Reverend Edward Pinkney. Though I'm not actually biologically related. We have Reverend Pinkney and I have a joke about that. We say, well, we're related only in the struggle. And it might go deeper than that, But yes, I'm the family spokesperson and a coordinator in the campaign to free Reverend Edward Pinkney. If I may just go right into this, and again, I want to thank you. Okay, I want to thank you, Webster. I also want to thank your listening audience, because without the audience, we would not be around. So I want to thank all of them. Let me say that right from the outset, I'm going to quote Reverend Edward Pinkney because he encapsulizes, quite frankly, what this struggle in Benton Harbor, Berrien County, Michigan is all about. Reverend Pinckney says that, quote, Berrien County is a criminal enterprise. And he's absolutely correct. Berrien County is a criminal enterprise. Those are the words of Reverend Edward Pinckney. And indeed, if I may expound upon that a little bit, the reason that on December 15, 2014, that Reverend Pinckney was whisked, and I do mean whisked, away to prison, is because he dared to stand up to the hidden hand on the plantation. What do I mean by that? I mean that the plantation in this case happens to be Benton Harbor, not only Benton Harbor, but in this case. And Reverend Pinckney was one of those, as Malcolm X would say, one of those malcontent slaves who would not stand idle, would not stand idly by and allow Whirlpool Corporation, and I want to repeat that, Whirlpool Corporation, who is really the monster behind all of this, to disenfranchise the people of Benton Harbor. When I say disenfranchise, I mean taking their land, I mean taking their money, I mean controlling the judicial system, the schooling system, the police department, the water system, you name it. Whirlpool Corporation is the monster behind all of this. So when we talk about a judiciary, i.e., the court system in Benton Harbor, Michigan, Berrien County, Michigan, or I call it really Benton Harbor, Mississippi, because in those terms it's really nothing more than a company town and